In 1993, Charles Barkley argued that having sporting ability does not automatically qualify a person to be a role model. Having sporting ability might not automatically qualify a person to be a role model, but if that person is going to benefit from the funds generated by public appeal and admiration, then it is the responsibility of the person with the sporting ability and popularity to learn what it means to be a role model and to fulfill the social contract that comes with being a professional athlete. Teachers, policemen, firefighters, political figures, authors, actors, and musicians all occupy professions supported by the society in which they live. Whether it be directly through box office sales, ticket sales, book sales, or indirectly through the allocation of tax revenue, each of these professions is dependent on public funding as a means of income and ultimately survival. With that dependence on society comes the social obligation to behave in an ethical manner. That same dependence on society, facilitated through successful ethical behavior, can also be applied to athletes. Human society is viewed as being composed of various interdependent parts, primarily the social institutions, the economy, education, religion, government, and so forth, as the structured components that maintain the social system as a whole, contributing and promoting social values and stability. Athletes living in the public eye are viewed by many as an integral part of these social institutions responsible for establishing and maintaining the social norm. If a teacher, police officer, or actor were caught engaging in unethical behavior, they would certainly endure public scrutiny and possible removal from their positions because their salaries are tied to public funding. With playing and endorsement contracts generating millions of dollars for athletes every year, and the voluntary use of social media sites such as Facebook and Twitter used by athletes to connect with fans, why should athletes be immune from those same penalties, if not harsher ones? To say that children are sponges is an understatement. Children are biologically built for self-education, as their instincts to explore, to observe, to eavesdrop on the conversations of their elders, to ask countless questions, and to play with the artifacts, ideas, and skills of the culture all serve the purpose of education. It is through this self-education that children look to people other than their parents for social cues. Even children who have the most wonderful parents imaginable need time away from them in order to learn how to get along without them and to solve problems on their own. Children observing ethical practices and behaviors through self-education is essential in the establishment of cultural values. The development of ethical values through self-education beyond parental influence is why it is so crucial for public figures such as teachers, policemen, firefighters, musicians, actors, authors, and athletes to conduct themselves in an ethical and moral manner. These public figures are shaping the minds of the future. Originally reserved for aristocrats as a sign of social class and status, sports were not always part of the mainstream culture. The beginning of the 19th century sparked a shift in the culture of sport. Technological innovations accompanied by the Industrial Revolution and urbanization, combined with attitudes, values, and beliefs regarding sport developed by influential persons, were instrumental in stimulating a transformation in social conditions that gave rise to modern sport. However, the transformation of sport to the entity that it is today was not complete until the introduction of mass media and communication. Mass communication is the glue that serves to integrate people into their society and has helped to shape and mold the development and popularity of the sport culture. It is this mass media and communication that has thrust athletes into the position of teaching ethical values and establishing social norms, as they are valued as the quintessential model of success, as their success seems to be in spite of any social or economic barriers endured by the average person. If society as a whole is responsible for the social conditioning of its youth, professional athletes must take their placement on the role model pedestal very seriously. Role models are people who act as an example for others, and their behavior is often emulated, so their behavior must conform to the high ideals and ethical values associated with sports. In today's era of instant mass communication, there is no way for athletes to avoid scrutiny if they engage in unethical behavior. There are several alternatives for athletes who do not wish to serve as role models: flying under the radar by not utilizing social media, not pursuing endorsement deals, and not engaging in actions that would yield unwanted attention both on and off the field gives an athlete leeway in engaging in unethical behavior. Children also need to be educated on the dangers of placing athletes on a pedestal. Both children and elite athletes need to be educated on ethical values in sports so that athletes understand their social responsibility towards cultivating the spirit of sportsmanship and positive attitudes through the use of athletes as life models for young people to follow, and children need to be educated that athletes sometimes make mistakes. Like it or not, our society has a strong dependence on athletes as role models for children and adolescents. However, by employing Kantian ethics and viewing situations through a social contract view of ethics, an athlete will greatly minimize the chances of engaging in unethical behavior and then having to endure the fallout that occurs after engaging in that behavior.